turn
down
the lights.
You're
Listening to
Somewhere in
Dreamland.
Welcome back, dreamers. I'm your host, Ken Mark, and you're listening to Somewhere in Dreamland. Be sure to check out the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the UnX Network, and on the Dreamland website at www.dreamlandpodcast.weebly.com. Tonight, my guest is Eleanor Wagner. Eleanor is the author of 4 books, Sussex County Hauntings 1 and 2, Dream a Little Dream, and Warren County Hauntings. Along with this, Eleanor is the host of 2 very popular paranormal-centered podcasts, as well as the founder and lead investigator of the Lady Ghostbusters. So, Eleanor, how are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm a little bit hot. It's muggy outside, and you know the dog days of summer. We're just at the end, and it wears on you down here in South Carolina. You know.
I'm sure it does. I can feel fall in the air already in New Jersey, so I'm kind of dreading the end of summer here.
I'm originally from Ohio, and I really miss fall. I miss the fall time. It's so beautiful. Like, we don't get that here. We go straight from, well, I guess our winter time is like fall down here for us. So it's like, it reminds me of fall up north.
Different colors of leaves, and you don't get any of that.
It's almost always green here, you know? So it will get some leaves that fall off, but they're not, I mean, they're not like all the pretty colors that you get up north. You know what I mean? And that's my favorite time of the year up north is the fall time, because it's the smell in the air and just how beautiful everything is. I love it.
Unfortunately, it comes and goes so quickly.
And then you get beat down by snow, right?
And it doesn't end.
I know.
Oh my God. It's like you're crawling to get to the end, because it's just like, when is it going to be spring? And then spring is always wet and foggy where I live anyway.
Yeah.
So once summer comes in, you're just tickled pink because you've been dying for that weather all along, you know?
Sure. I do like, that's one of the things I do like about where I live here is we're so close to the ocean, and it's warm. So our winters are like, they're like, you know, we see 60, 70, 80 degree days. Heck, last New Year's before last, it was 85 degrees here, you know.
No way.
Yeah, it was like, you can't beat that, you know, but I do miss the leaves in the fall and that smell, because it just skips over that. We're straight from summertime almost all the time to, we'll get a couple of 30-degree days, and then it's 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then we're just hot, so hot you don't even want to open your door. I guess I'll take it. I don't know. Listen to me complaining. You get snow up there, and I'm complaining about it being hot, right? Oh, I froze. I think you froze. Let's see. There you go.
It's like you froze. Oh, there you go. You're coming back.
I think we both kind of froze there. So, Eleanor, I'm glad to have you on the show. And I know that you and I have kind of talked back and forth, and I know a great deal about you because I listened to your show, your podcast, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which one do you listen in on?
Oh, what the heck is it called? You put me on the spot. See what happens?
That's okay. There's Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World out of the Paranormal UK radio. No. Oh, Eleanor Wagner's Creepin It Reel.
Creepin It Reel. That's the one I listened to.
Okay.
Yep. Creepin It Reel. Yep. My mind just totally went blank, and I don't know why. But yeah, Creepin It Reel. That's a really cool show. I like the way you have that set up, and I think you're doing great with it. So
thanks.
Yeah.
It's really different from, Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World, which I have out of the Paranormal UK radio network. But that one, I kind of delve into other things that are strange and scary, not just the paranormal teams and what they've done and their accounts and evidence. it kind of touches upon Bigfoot and UFOs and people who live with ghosts, that kind of thing. And I've brought quite a few guests on that have been in my books on that particular show. And then also I have a series called the Lady Ghostbusters series, which every now and again I'll bring a team member on and talk about them. So I'm just trying different things out. But that's what I do on the pre-recorded show. And with, as you know, with the live show, I bring on paranormal teams and we talk about some of their great investigations and they bring their evidence with us. So they're similar in nature, but not so much, you know.
Right. Now, which do you prefer to do, live show or a pre-recorded show?
You know, people have asked me that so many times already before, and it's kind of like a happy medium for both, because with the pre-recorded, I'm anal about checking everything perfectly and editing out when somebody does the you knows or the and you do have people that come on and will say, and so I go, and so, and it's every other sentence. And I think I would go crazy if I had one of them on my live show, because it would drive me nuts. Like, stop saying, and so, you know, because it takes them so long to get a sentence out in a conversation. So with the pre-recorded ones, I really do like that I'm able to edit out that sort of thing. But the downside is that it takes me like 6 hours to edit an episode. And now with the live show, because it's so personal and you're right there talking to the person in live time, and then you get to actually watch stuff and listen to stuff and look at stuff, it's great. I have to prepare a script. I have to make sure the techie guy has everything ahead of time, but you can have boo-boos. And that's the frustrating part. When you have something on a show and something doesn't come up or the internet kicks out, it's like, you know, or he puts up the wrong picture, and it's like, okay, that's all right, Chris, you know, just move on to the next one, and you kind of just go with the flow. So that part of it is frustrating for me, because I wish I could have everything perfect. But as long as the people get what I'm trying to put out there with the guests and they're happy with it, then I'm sure that they understand that those things happen when you're in a live show, and they kind of go with the flow too.
Sure. I know when I first started doing my show, the editing took me so long, and I was super, super anal about everything because, you know, like you said, I wanted everything to be perfect, and I still do. But in the end, I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm making everybody like way better than what they are, you know?
I've thought about that too, because I've said somebody will listen to somebody on my show and they'll really love what they're listening to. So that's the good thing. But then if they go and listen to that person on another show, it might just drive them nuts. This person didn't talk like that on the other show.
Sure.
But then it also makes you look good for what you did. So I guess you could just pat yourself on the back for that one.
And on the flip side of that, I've also noticed things in my own speech that I'm like, oh man, why do I keep doing that? Like I go a lot, and then I like repeat words. Like I'll say them twice, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why have I never noticed this before?
Well, just think of it this way. It's a learning experience. I'm learning better ways to speak as well, just from my editing myself. I know I have to talk a little slower and go crazy with the curse words, because in real life, I really don't hesitate with the curse words. I just kind of like spew them out. So there are things that I pick up on when I'm editing myself that I try to remember when I'm on a podcast somewhere else, so that I don't make so many mistakes, and it won't be so difficult for you to fix it.
Sure.
Oh, and talking over some. I get so excited when I'm in a conversation with somebody and they've got something I want to say, and I have to wait for that person to finish and not cut them off. That's another problem that I have.
Yeah, I have that problem. And then sometimes I wait too long and I'm like, what was I going to say? I try to write it down all the time, but then I forget. And like later on, like I'm already past that point, and I'm like, I'm not going to ask them now. So
you're too young to be having senior moments.
Man,
I can claim to have senior moments, but not you.
Listen, I have 6 kids. I feel older than I should be, you know? My wife asks me all the time, she says, how old are you? Like, you act like you're a 50, 60, 70-year-old man. How old are you? Like, hey, you know. Well, hey, I want to talk about some of your books, too, because you've got, what, 4 of them out there already?
I do, and 5 is on its way out. I've been taking this summer to really plug up the chapters while doing some paranormal investigating and trying to keep on top of podcasts. So, but I'm pushing those chapters out so that I could try and release for Halloween. That's my deadline.
Awesome. So let's talk about the books that you've written already and then go to the one that you're working on. What are the books that you've written already?
All right. Well, the first one that I wrote is called Dream a Little Dream. It's a psychological thriller, and it takes place in Sussex County where I live. And that's what I've been writing forever, ever since I was like in the 7th grade. That's the kind of stuff I was writing. But I've always been fascinated by ghosts. I lived with a ghost in my house when I was growing up. I'm sensitive to spirit. I always have been. The paranormal has been very fascinating for me. And whenever I go to visit another state or a town, I always look for that little bookshop and the latest book on the hauntings in the area. And I owned a haunted gift shop in Sussex where I live. So I know the county that I live in is haunted. So this idea came to me to see if the public would be openly receptive to sharing their ghostly tales that they've lived with in the county. And maybe I could write a book about it and share it with the world. And I put it out on social media, and people just responded like weeks. My phone didn't stop dinging. That's really how quickly I was getting people reaching out to me with their stories. I thought Sussex County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena was going to be one book. And after that first book started, when I started accumulating stories and I started writing it and working on it, I was receiving so many stories from people. I felt, wow, it's going to be more than one book. And then I was getting all these other people coming to me with stories from other counties. So I started keeping folders. I was accumulating more stories for Sussex County where I live, but then I was getting stories from Warren County, Pike County, Passaic County, Morris County, Orange County. Those are just a few that I can name to you. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be something that I didn't expect. So I finished writing Sussex County. Well, I didn't finish yet. I had people coming to me with stories, believe it or not, about Bigfoot and UFOs in Sussex. And they were such good stories, I couldn't not put them in the book. And I had to come up with a way that I was going to be able to get them in this ghostly book, because the book's name was going to be Sussex County Hauntings. So I decided to put the tag on it that said, and Other Strange Phenomena, thinking it would be suitable for UFOs and Bigfoot to be thrown in the mix. And I'm so glad I did, because once I finished writing that book and I started writing Sussex County Hauntings Book 2, I was able to go anywhere really with that Other Strange Phenomena section. And in that respect, for book 2, I decided to write about stories that people have when they're with their loved ones at their time of death, because those are really poignant, compelling stories. And then stories of people who get visits from their deceased loved ones, because I've experienced that myself personally. And those stories are just wonderfully joyful and faith instilling. I mean, I can't say enough about it. And then there's the symbolism people get when they have a deceased loved one that's passed away. People sometimes say butterflies or birds or hummingbirds in specific, or cardinals more specifically, or in the clouds. And I've learned from my research to tell people that those symbols are personal to you. And if you have a feeling that that cardinal is your mom who passed away, then you better believe that your mom's putting that thought in your head. It's me. Hi, I'm okay, and I'm here. So I put those stories in book 2, and people really received them well. They were just so like, I love those stories. So they were getting that haunting that they wanted, along with the pictures and the history, but they were also getting these other stories that were very compelling and strong in like faith-oriented kind of stuff that helped them to grieve and know that there's something else beyond this life that we look forward to, and that our loved ones are always with us. So when I went to write the third book, which turned out to be Warren County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena, because at that point I'm saying, I keep on telling people that I'm going to be writing about other counties, and I'm still stuck on Sussex County. Let me stop and let me write Warren County, because I had such great stories about like the Tilly Smith rape in the 1800s at Centenary University, her ghost, and the Changewater murders and the killers. Well, I don't believe the men that were convicted and hanged were the actual murderers, but their ghosts were haunting the area, and I needed to find the truth behind that story. So that's in the book. And it just, okay, that's the one that I'm going to write the third time around. And then again, I had the other strange phenomena chapters that I was able to work with. And I decided to write about near-death experiences, when people have died and come back, and what happened, and did it change their lives, which it did dramatically and drastically. So I love the fact that I did that, because it has opened up other avenues for me. And now with Sussex County Hauntings, book 3 that I'm writing right now, I'm going into reincarnation on those chapters, because I have lots of stories of adults that have grown to find out who they were, and children who are talking to their parents right now about who they were in a previous life, which are really cool stories to talk about. But then I always throw in the UFO stories that I pick up along the way, and the Bigfoot stories that I pick up along the way, because in Sussex County, we still have very recent sightings of Bigfoot. And I mean, as early as 2019 was the last one. That's somebody that is a personal friend of mine that shared with me. She was like, don't put my name in the book, but this is my story. So I put her in there, but changed her name, because it was such a compelling story that happened just so much recent. I'm sure there are others, but I only write about the stories that people share with me. I don't do like any hearsay or my friend told me. I want somebody to come to me and say, this happened to me. And if they want me to change their name when I'm writing in the book, I do. And if they're fine with me putting their name in, I will. So
awesome. Now, do you touch on the Jersey Devil and Big Red Eye and Monkey Man and all that in all your books?
Believe it or not, Big Red Eye in Sussex County is believed to be Bigfoot. It's our version of Bigfoot. So when I'm talking about Bigfoot, people have always called it Bigfoot and not Big Red Eye. Big Red Eye. I think Big Red Eye, mostly down South Jersey, down by the ocean and the pines, they call it Big Red Eye mostly. So if somebody had come to me with a story about Big Red Eye, I would put it in the book as Big Red Eye. And as I said to you, I require that people come to me with their stories. I'm not going to just write about something that I've heard. So unless somebody comes to me with a story about a particular location, I've not written about it yet. I have a lot of people asking me to write about the Vernon Inn, which has been documented quite a few times in other books, and Weird New Jersey, which is very popular in our area. And I would love to write about the Vernon Inn, because it's still there. The building is in the town I used to live in. And I think it would be great, but I don't want to put stories that have already been written out there. I want new accounts from people who are going to, hey, I used to work there. This is what happened to me. Hey, I used to own the building, that sort of thing. And that hasn't happened yet. But there's no shortage of stories, believe it or not. I'm getting people coming out of the woodwork about stories all the time in residences and businesses in the area. So I'm not lacking for any stories.
Right. It's kind of cool that I know that I heard there's a correlation between the Jersey Devil and Bigfoot possibly being the same thing, but to find out that I guess Big Red Eye and Bigfoot, when you get into it, are really the same type of phenomena. When I lived in Ohio, we called Bigfoot Grassman up there.
Yeah, he's been called the Abominable Snowman and Sasquatch. I mean, every city, state, country, town, they refer to it as something else, but it's all one and the same.
Yeah. And I know down here I'm sure you've heard of the Lizard Man down here in South Carolina.
I have.
The more I talk to researchers and people that have actually looked at that case, the more often than not, they say they think it's just Bigfoot that had swamp on him and came out and he looked like that because it was dark. So it's really interesting to connect all those things from different areas, but they're seen as different things and called different things, you know?
I usually don't get people coming out with like other cryptid stories, and I'm not opposed to them. I really would love to hear about Mothman or any of that sort of thing if somebody's experienced. In fact, I'm starting to write chapters about hauntings around the country, hauntings around other parts of New Jersey, hauntings around the world, because people come to me with some really great stories. And I'm like, well, I'm writing about Sussex County, but if I put a chapter in the book about around the country, around the world, that'll work. It'll fit in there. So I'm not opposed to that. In fact, in the new book that's coming out, local residents came to me about this really weird anomaly that they encountered when they were driving at night, coming home from a very long trip back home. And they couldn't explain what it was. It wasn't your typical UFO that people would describe, like a disc-shaped thing. It wasn't your typical Bigfoot. It wasn't anything like that. It was this strange anomaly that actually drove or beside their car, but not drove, followed beside their car at a high rate of speed and kind of was warpy, shadowy thing. And they couldn't explain it, and it freaked them out. So I'm writing about that account because it was so cool and it's so different from what I've normally written about before. And people are going to be like, oh, that was here. And maybe even some other people will see it and go, oh my God, that's kind of what I had happen to me back in 2005 or something like that.
Yeah. And then you'll get more stories, which is great.
It always prompts other people come for stories. It prompts people inviting me into their homes and residences. I have people who will send me footage of their house cameras and say, this thing popped up and I don't know what it is, that kind of thing, which is really cool because then I start to develop all this other evidence that I just love to evaluate and bring to my team members and say, what do you think? And we just have fun looking them over and kind of deciphering and taking them apart. We just did an investigation this past weekend in Burnbrae Mansion, which is an old Victorian in Glens Bay, New York, which is probably about 30 minutes from where I live over the border into Orange County. And I had been there myself. I think it was 2018, I want to say, was the first time that I was there. I had gone on a girlfriend's weekend. One of my friends had said, oh, they're having, this paranormal group there that's going to do like a whole thing with people from the outside where they're going to give us audio to carry with us at all time. And they're going to put us in a black room to try and connect with spirit. And we can do our own paranormal thing if we want. You want to go? Because we'd often gone away to other places and this was somewhere local. And the mansion is just gorgeous. I mean, when you see the pictures, you're just like, oh, I just want to go there just to see this place because it's just so beautiful. And when I went there the first time, I was told prior that the little girl ghost in the house, her name was Ellie, and my name is Ellie. I've been called Ellie since I was a child. So the first thing I did when I went into the house was say, hi, Ellie, my name is Ellie too, because I wanted to try and connect with spirit. And at one point, they brought us into the dark room and you had to go with a partner. So my daughter had come with me with my girlfriends that weekend. So she was my partner. We stayed in the room together. And when we were waiting for our turn to get into the black room, the cameraman guy came out and said, the ghost is looking for the other Ellie.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, that's me. So she and I go into the black room and I'm a kindergarten aide by day. So I'm around little kindergartners all the time. So she was like 5 when she passed away. So my daughter and I sitting in this black room trying to connect with her spirit. And we start singing like nursery rhymes and trying to connect with the 5-year-old spirit, telling her that I'm a teacher. And, my daughter was talking about how she loves kids. And of course, we didn't hear the audio until afterwards when they listened to it. But when they did play it back, she had said, my name is Ellie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is really cool to get footage like that. So I'd always wanted to go back. And so after that event, I got to be friends with the paranormal team that was there that night. And when I wrote my first book in 2019, and I had the opportunity to go into the Sterling Hills mine here in Ogdensburg, New Jersey, I was invited to bring my paranormal team. And at the time, I didn't have one. So I had to very quickly put one together, assemble one. And I invited a couple of those people from that paranormal group that night. And some of the women that I had interviewed for that first book that were very sensitive to spirit. And they came along with me. And that's kind of how the Lady Ghostbuster team was established that night at that Sterling Hill Mines, which, by the way, we got some really great footage from the investigation that evening. We all had our cameras going. Everybody had audio. And so what happens when we go on an investigation, everybody that's invited by me reports back to me anything that happened to them. If they saw something, if they felt something, because a lot of people are very sensitive mediums. They can see, hear, speak, that kind of thing with spirit. So they would show me their footage, share their footage with me, and they know I'm there for the express purpose of writing a chapter about that location in my book. So they're coming along with me to help me obtain that evidence. It's fun and exciting for them and adventurous for them too, but they know that the main purpose is that I'm writing a chapter in the book, and they're helping me to achieve that. So after that investigation, when I had accumulated everything that I had gotten, there was quite a few footage that everybody took when we were in this main chamber in the mines. And so when I was looking at the footage, I tried to get the best footage out of everybody's that would show a visual to the watcher of what we experienced that night, because it was like this amazing white mist that actually communicated with us and was responding to one of the team members. She was talking to it and said, "Can you do that again?" And all of a sudden you'd see this wisp of smoke come right up in front of the camera and then go away. And then she'd say, "Can you do that again?" And it was just interacting with us. It was crazy, crazy cool. So I took the best footage from that night and sent it into Paranormal Caught on Camera. And they liked it so much, they did a feature on us for an episode.
Oh, that's really cool.
So that was really a lot of fun. Yeah. So for me, that's kind of like a what do you call it? Not a headstone, a milestone is the word I'm trying to think. Kind of like a milestone, because that was the very first investigation the Lady Ghostbusters did. It was on my birthday. I made sure I had planned the investigation for my birthday. So we went there, and those team members have been a part of the group since. Some people have left and we've gotten new ones, but from the paranormal team that I met there that night, the husband and wife team, they've been with me ever since. And so I wanted to go back there so bad, I decided to plan one again. But when you want to go to this mansion, they charge a really hefty fee for you to have the mansion for the night. So if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to do it right. I'm going to have to make sure that I plan it right so that I make it affordable for everybody to come, and we all get to do a paranormal investigation together. So I've never done anything like this before, right? But I'm gung-ho, and I'm going to get this thing going. So I plan it. I book the place, tell everybody, this is how much it's going to cost. I have to have the money in by this and this date, but it's going to include this, that, and the other thing. And before you knew it, I had it booked up. And I was like, well, that's great. And I was so excited because when everybody came, they all brought their equipment if they were already into the paranormal investigating. If they were not, it was their first investigation, they were allowed to just tag along with those of us who had equipment. I brought a lot of paranormal evidence with me and I prepared this presentation, a PowerPoint presentation that was kind of showing them evidence that I've accumulated over the years. Whether it was audio or video or photographs that people have shared with me, and I talked to them about the investigations. And then the team member from the paranormal team, the original one that I met, he knew the whole history of this building because he'd been there so many times over 30 years. He started telling them about the history and the ghostly activity that goes on there and what he's experienced over the years. So it was kind of like a really fun adventure for everybody. And besides that, they got to meet the elderly owners. Both of them are in their 80s.
Wow.
And they prepared this wonderful dinner for us. I mean, it was just so lovely. It was just a really good experience. And everybody's like, I want to come back. So it looks like, but beyond that, we had some really cool stuff that happened to us that night. So now we're just sifting through the evidence that everybody shared, and even me personally, the stuff that I experienced, I was like, whoa, I just was really excited about what happened. And it's going to be, I told them I'm going to write a chapter on it in a future book for Orange County. It's not going to be for a bit because I'm just starting to accumulate stuff for Orange County, but it's definitely going to be in there.
Cool. Yeah, it's amazing. Like there's one of two types of people when they're presented with something paranormal in their, in their presence, right? They think they want to be paranormal investigators, and then they see something and they're like, nope, I'm done. Or it hooks you, right? And sucks you in, and you can't get enough of it. It's there. That's it. There's nothing in between, I don't think.
I had a woman come. I knew that she was a magnet for this kind of thing. I had met her randomly. She had worked in an antique shop, and I walk into an the first thing I say is the building haunted, especially if it's in a really old building, because I mean, it doesn't have to be an old building for it to be haunted, but if it's an old building with a lot of antiques in it, it's probably going to be haunted. And she goes, I haven't been working here that long and I haven't noticed anything, but my house is really haunted. And she lives in a Victorian home that she totally renovated and brought back to its original grandeur. And she's all by herself, this woman. She did this all on her own. She invited me over there and I went and I was like, wow, I would love to investigate. What can I bring my team? And she's like, oh my God, yeah. So we went and we did an investigation at home, and getting to know her, she is a magnet. I mean, they flock to her. And I'm thinking, girl, do you know what you have? You know? And then she starts talking to me about her mother and how her mother's really sensitive. And she starts spewing these stories that had happened to her mother over the years. And I'm like, now I know where you got it from, right? So when I was planning this event, I asked her if she wanted to come, and she was like, oh my God, really? Oh my God, really? So she's never been on an investigation before. And she was so excited, and both she and her mother came along and they had a blast. And they did. I mean, the mom was afraid. I mean, I can't believe these people have these gifts that I would die for. I mean, I'm sensitive, but I'm not nearly as sensitive as some people are.
Sure.
And you have these gifts and you're afraid of it though, you know? But Sherry, she's not. Her house is very haunted. And like I said, they flock to her, but she was in her glory. Like she was in her spot, like in the room. She was making connection with the little girl, Ellie. And she was just like a sponge. She was one of those people that asks these questions and wants to learn and know more. And those are the people that I kind of like. I guess I'm that. She's the magnet. I'm that draw. Like I am totally drawn to people like that, because those are the people that I try to encourage to come along with my group and be a part of it. Like I've had people on my team in the past that have been very socially inept, socially sheltered kind of people, and they were afraid to go out of their box. But when you talk paranormal to them, they'd be like, oh my God, I love that. And I've extended that invitation to them too, to try and get them out of their box. And I felt like I had succeeded. So I hope that they had learned something from that and are happier for it, I guess is the best way that I can explain it, that I was able to give them that. Because my group is all about, I have three statements to our mission statement. Our first is that we're there for the spirit. We're there for that spirit to acknowledge them and find out what it is that they want to say. And if they don't know about that light that they can go into, we're going to try and help them get there. If they want to stay behind, then that second part is we're going to help those people that they interact with in the home. We're going to help them to be able to live together in a comfortable situation and not be scared shitless of the spirit in the house. So we're there for those people. And then the third, which I think is probably just as important as the other two, is my goal is to mentor each other. Let's help each other, because when we're all together, the energy that we have when it's positive is unbelievable. The things that we accomplish when we're on an investigation, when we're on the same page. But if you start to have like negativity and drama, then it's like, all right, there's something wrong, and that we're not in the right place. So I always strive to get the right team, the right attitude, and that we're all there together helping each other out.
I like it. I like all three of those aspects of it. And I think it's very important, especially in this day and age, to lay it all out there for everybody to know what you expect, and so that they know what is expected of them as well, and being part of a group. Because you're right, in the end, you guys all have to work together, and you're all there for the same thing. And the more harmony you have in that group, the better off you're going to be.
And I appreciate the fact that my team members know who I am. They know that I'm this author that out of nowhere decided to write this book and started a paranormal group. And I'm no expert. I learn as I go, but they know that I write stories that are true, and that's my ultimate goal. And people who are on my team, who stay on my team, know that that's our goal. We're there to get the story and live by those three rules. And, you know, it works. It does work.
Sure.
And I love to write the story with the history on the town and the history of the location, and then tell, let's say it's your story that you had happen to you. Like to share your story, and then if my paranormal team gets to go into your home or that building, I love to talk about what it is that we experience too. It can be very boring. I tell people all the time, paranormal investigating can be really boring. You could be there for hours and nothing can happen. But when it does happen, it's great. And chances are, if you've got 7 people or 8 people on your team that are all energized and sensitive to spirit, you'd be surprised what can happen with spirit coming out. And respecting spirit. I'm not one of those people that likes to push the buttons and get them angry or anything like that. Like I let the spirit know that we're there for them and that we want to acknowledge them. Because more often than not, they're frustrated because they are trying to get your attention. And if people can't hear them or don't want to listen, that imagine it can be frustrating for them, right?
Sure.
So when they finally get somebody that's there that is listening, it's amazing what you can accomplish.
That's like when I tell my kids, whenever we go fishing, they get all messed up and they're like, oh, we haven't caught a fish. And I said, hey, you're supposed to catch a fish every time. They call it catching instead of fishing, right? It's kind of like ghost hunting. It's you're hunting for a ghost. You're not catching a ghost every time. You're hunting for one, right?
Right. And I'm not even hunting either. I mean, that's probably a fun, I call us Ghostbusters. I don't feel like I'm busting ghosts either, but that's just a fun play on the name. Because I do respect spirit totally. And I
love the name, actually.
I like it too. It's just fun, but I don't really literally mean I'm busting or hunting ghosts. I'm there for them first and foremost anyway.
Right.
And that's a great comparison to fishing. I love that because it's true. That's really what it is. You don't expect to find anything all the time. And sometimes you got to go back to a place more often. And that's why I really wanted to get back to Bray because of that first experience. And now I want to go back even more because of what happened this past weekend. And that really makes it fun and exciting because I know that there's activity there and I've experienced twice already. And I want to go back and see if I can find out more.
Sure. I think that's why like popular paranormal television today is a good thing and a bad thing. And I've said it before on my show. It's good because it's getting it out there to the mainstream and people see that there are people that are taking this seriously. Well, for the most part, I can think of a show or two that don't. But you know, that are people who are interested in this, and it opens them up to the idea of, hey, maybe what is going on in my house is something, but it also is negative because now you turn on your television and you see these guys. Every place they go into is haunted. You know what I mean? Every single place, and so
you got to remember though, it's entertainment. I've spoken to a New York director already, and he had said to me, just always remember it's entertainment.
Yeah.
It's not going to work if it's not going to entertain the people out there. So if they were to try and give the listener a little better understanding that it's not always successful, it takes time. If they constantly letting people know that, you know, because some of them do, they say we've been here for 6 hours or we've been out here for a week. As long as they're letting people know that, then they're going to get the real side of things. Right. Because, like I said, it can be really boring. It can produce nothing, in fact, at times.
I always feel like those shows, like for me to make me feel good, I want to see what happens after. Like when they go into a residential place and they figure out that it's haunted, or in their opinion it's haunted. I always want to know what happens afterwards. They always cut it off right there. Yeah. They got them sitting down and they go, yeah, your place is haunted. That's it. You know, like, okay, so do you leave them people hanging or do you actually go back and try to help them with the situation? Like what happens afterwards?
What I usually do is I try to reconnect with, no, I don't want to say I try. I do reconnect with people that I've gone on investigation for. I'll at least speak to them at least once to see if everything is going, if the activity is still gone, do they feel more comfortable? And also let them know that if they need help again, they can always give us a call back. And honest to God, I mean, knock on wood, I haven't had anybody complain about what I've done and what I've said with the team. There's one woman we're working with right now from Lake Kapakong, and she's another one of those women that's a magnet. And also your personal situation has a reflection on how things are going to come out and pan out for you. So if you're really under a lot of stress or you have a lot of stuff going on, it can create negative activity also, especially if you are that kind of magnet. And this particular woman was actually becoming afraid of what was happening in her home, thinking that it was bad. And when in reality, after we did the investigation, it turns out it really wasn't. It was just she's extremely spiritual, very Native American oriented. She has it in her history. And we wanted to explain to her that those are your protectors. They're wanting to surround you because her personal life is so effed up. It's got so much stuff going on that this poor woman is dealing with, that they are surrounding her to protect her, and that she doesn't need to be afraid because so much stuff was going on. She was like thinking she was under siege.
Yeah.
And we were trying to make her understand, you are this magnet and you are so sensitive, and you know that you are, but you have to accept it and not be afraid of it. And so with her, it wasn't just giving her a follow-up call. I've been talking to her regularly, like I've done with others in the past since I've been doing this in 2019, and she's doing good. And now we're going to go back again, actually not this Friday, but next Friday for a follow-up, because we want to just assess the situation and see how things are going. There were some areas that we didn't get to go into the last time because we've been there for like 6 or 7 hours. And after a while, you just kind of get drained. You really do get drained. And we'll take it from there. We'll see how it goes and how she feels. But she's another one that I'd like to invite, to have her come out and try and be a part of the group and see if she can enhance upon her abilities, because she really does have a great sensitivity to spirit. And in the long run, I think it would actually help her too, because she's been so afraid of it. Now, if you take hold of it and really embrace it, you'd be surprised how comfortable you can be with a situation.
Yeah, sure. And it also, if she's that big of a magnet, it also helps the group, and it helps the cause altogether. It helps every party, I think. So it's pretty important.
Yes.
So I want to talk to you about some of your books. Actually, I want to know about this psychological thriller that you wrote, because I'm really interested in this.
Okay. All right. Dream a Little Dream. I grew up with Dean Koontz, Stephen King, John Saul. Those were the three that I grew up with. And they've been my inspiration ever since. I read everything they ever wrote back then, and one right after the other, and I was just hooked. And so when I was doing my own writing, when I moved from poetry to short stories, I started writing horror and ghost stories. And that was my thing. I've always really enjoyed it. And when I went to go write that first book, when I had that first idea, it was going to be obviously something in line with what King, Saul, and Koontz would write. And it took me a year to write the book. I wrote it before I had my children. And that was my first daughter was born in 95. So you can figure how old that book was. But when I finished it, I felt accomplished, put it in a box, put it up in the closet, and went, And then I stopped writing, and I raised my children, and I was the Girl Scout mom, the 4-H mom, the women's club leader. I was all of that for my children when they were growing up. Then my kids are full grown, and they're on their own, really independent, doing their own thing. And I'm kind of like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I end up talking to a guy I used to go to high school with, and he tells me he had his book published. He wrote this book. And I was envious and excited all at the same time, because I was thrilled that he had found this success and he wrote this book and got it published. But I was envious because I was like, damn, I wrote a book too. It's up in the closet. And he goes, what? I'm like, yeah, I did. Get that thing down off your closet and send it to my publisher. I'm like, oh, no. He goes, no, you have to. Now, when I had written that book, I had gone to school to write for children. And I had really been through the whole gamut of sending things out and getting letters that were back, rejections and rejection. So I really had that fear of rejection and taking that thing out of the closet and send it into his publisher. And I procrastinated for quite a few months before I did it. I took it down and sent the first 3 chapters in and got a letter back from them that said they wanted to see the whole manuscript. So I was like, oh, that's a good sign, because I had gone to school and they had said that the first rule of thumb was if you submit something to a publisher and they say they want to see the rest of it, that's great. But if they start asking you to dish out money, then it's not legit and you don't want to listen to it. So I wasn't going to believe it until I got the contract saying I didn't have to dish out a dime. And that happened. I was like, oh, a publisher really wants to publish my book? Wow. It was the coolest feeling. It really was. And it was a great experience. And I'm honored to have gone through that with an actual traditional publisher. I lasted with them for about a year or 2. Publishing is a strange world. They don't really do much marketing for you. So I was getting like paychecks here and there from them. But after a certain period, I was still doing the same marketing that I had done and I wasn't seeing anything and I was wondering about it. So that was a whole other story to talk about. But I eventually ended up breaking free of the publisher and publishing on my own independently with my hauntings books, because I said, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to have to run after somebody to get paid. I want to be in control of it myself, even if I have to bust my ass a little bit more. But I'm already doing all the marketing, so I might as well. And I haven't turned back since. I haven't been regretful in any way. It's been a really good experience doing it on my own. And I have a children's series that's in the work too, which, I should have done that too. I went to school to write for children, but it's really hard writing children's books and getting illustrators to go with it. The illustrating part is the hardest thing. So I found a lovely young artist and she's doing the book, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that she'll stay with me for the entire series because it's the same character that I'm going to have in all the books. So I've gotten the ball rolling. But that psychological thriller, it's got that edge of romance, and I call it the type of book that's a really quick read that keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's a page turner to the end. And when I wrote it, that was it, the end. And I've had people come back and go, but we want to see more of Kieran and Victoria. Aren't you going to write another book? Because everybody has these trilogies now. And I was never a trilogy type of person. I grew up with the book and you were done and that's it. So when I wrote it, I had no desire to write anymore. And people keep on asking me. And I don't know that will happen, because I am writing my second psychological thriller. And it takes place in the Victorian times as opposed to present day, which Dream does. And it's been slow moving because I've been so overwhelmed with the hauntings books. They've consumed me now. It's like this obsession, but I don't want to give it up because I love writing fiction and I love that story that I'm writing, and I can't wait to be done. I'm actually in a reader's book. I'm not a reader, a reader's group, I meant to say, excuse me. I'm in a reader's group. And we read each other's stuff as we are creating it. And they've listened to it from the beginning and they've gotten to the point where I'm at now. And they're all like, oh.
That's a good sign.
I just have to find the time to continue to work on that. So I did work on that a little this summer already, because I am narrating my Warren County Hauntings audiobook for the first time ever. When I got into the podcasting, I have all the equipment. I thought, well, if I got all the equipment, I might as well do an audiobook on my own instead of hiring somebody to do the narrating. And people like to listen to the author read if the author reads well.
Yes.
So I've done a lot of presentations and I've had people come up to me afterwards and go, I love to listen to you read. You're so captivating. And I thought, well, then it must be good enough for me to do it for an audiobook. So I've decided to do that myself. And I worked on that probably the whole month of June into a little bit of July and finished that. I'm just, with the editing. So I'm working on that right now. And then I'm going to submit that and see if it goes through, because I've never done this before. So I'm throwing myself into it and to try. And so I'm still really trying to keep up with both the podcasts and write Sussex 3 because I have a deadline. So I'm sure everything is overwhelming and trying to do a little bit here and there. So I'm trying to keep up, but I seem to be managing. I'm doing better with time management than I've ever been before.
I'm actually flirting with the idea of writing a book now.
Really?
I have been for a while. I mean, look, I wrote I read 58 of them last year. I might as well try to write one now, right? Like,
you love to read. That's good.
Yeah, I do. I do love to read. So, I mean, my parents were librarians. So, what can I say?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
And have you ever written anything before?
Oh yeah. I've been published. I've had poetry published and a couple of things like that. So I'm gonna throw in my hat in that arena and see where I get. I know we kind of share the same kind of authors. I know those. I like John Saul, and I like Kuntz, and I love King.
Yeah. So I saw it on your face. I saw that look. Like yeah. Well, my best advice to you is join a writers group if there's something locally to you. I like the one that I'm on because we do it on Zoom. I don't have to worry about getting in my car and going to the place. They have meetings locally too, but it always was just so inconvenient for me to find that time to drive over there. So when they started doing them on Zoom, I was like, oh, that's great, because then I can actually go. So if you want, I can connect you with that writers group, and you're more than welcome to participate. All right, there. Cool. And then and the other thing is there's no obligation. There's no fee. You don't have to produce something every single time they have a visit. You just listen to whatever somebody else has written and critique it. That's the kind of thing that's nice about it. But the best advice I can give you is get a good editor.
Okay.
Even if you're good at yourself, because I used to proofread my boss's stuff all the time, but I still don't trust myself.
Yeah.
And it's really important to have a good editor. And I'm one of those readers that if I read a book and it's riddled with errors, I don't like it.
Same.
I get pissed off because you're putting out garbage. Then I don't care how good your story is. It's just not the way a book is supposed to be. I mean,
every once in a while you'll get one that, something will slip through and you'll be like, okay, but it's
and that happens. That happens.
It's the ones that are, it's the ones that are just piece after piece.
If you have a whole book and you have 5 errors in it, you consider yourself lucky, because nobody is perfect. But if you've got a book that like every single page is riddled with grammatical errors and punctuation errors, and then if you're reading a story and somebody's just throwing in a sex scene just to throw it in and it makes no sense, and you can tell that there's something missing, then I have a problem with that.
Right.
I really do have a problem with that.
And I think it's different when you're editing your own words, something that you've put down on paper, and then you go back and edit it, because I don't know about you, but in my mind, it's like I don't see my own errors as easy as I see someone else's writing, because the way it is in my head and the way that I had it down on paper are two totally different things. And I may just skip right over that thing,
That's why you have an editor. That's why you get an editor, right? So that they can see those things and they can point it out. I think you missed something here. They're going to catch all those things. And you want to get a good one too. You want to make sure that I've had editors in the past. Before my daughter started doing it, I had people and they were just kind of like checking off something here and checking off. They weren't like talking to me about anything. They weren't explaining something and giving me
feedback,
a viewpoint. Yeah. And that's, to me, that's priceless when somebody does that. Sure, I want you to help me with the grammar and the punctuation, which I'm really good at myself, but I want you to catch things if I didn't. I need you more for if you're getting my thoughts, if I'm missing something, if you think I should add something to it. That's what I feel is more worth your money than anything.
Well, hey, so Eleanor, what's next for you? What do you got coming out next?
Oh my goodness. So Sussex 3, I'm shooting to get out for Halloween. I have the live podcast that's with Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. That's the Creepin It Reel show. That's live. The Eleanor Wagner Strange and Scary World is out of the Paranormal UK Radio Network. So those 3 I'm still working on. I've got investigations coming up, because October, it seems like everybody wants the haunted lady. So I'm booking for September and October for a lot of different things. So there'll be book signings and that sort of thing. But I just keep on moving on. I'm hoping that this still happens. A Channel 11 news reporter from my community was connected to me through another avenue and reached out and wants to do a story with me on and me and my team on an investigation. So I might end up on the Channel 11 news locally, which would be really exciting because it would be something else to get on my resume. But I kind of like just go with all the opportunities that are offered to me because I feel like every opportunity is a gift, and it's exposure for people who like to read ghost stories and psychological thrillers. And
awesome.
I just go with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find all your stuff?
Everything is on authoreleanorwagner.com. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm still trying to get the show to stream right through the YouTube channel so people don't have a hard time finding it, because people have been like, I wanted to watch the show and I couldn't find it. And Coast to Coast was just redoing their website, and people were trying to go to the shows tab to look for Creepin It Reel, and it wasn't popping up. So it's like, what's happening? People can't find it. So it's on there now finally, but I'm going to have Techie Chris stream it from my YouTube channel. So anybody can just go to author Eleanor Wagner, my YouTube channel, and they can find it right there. But authoreleanorwagner.com has everything and anything about me on it, whether it's the books that I've written and how you can get them, any of the events I've been on and are doing, investigative evidence, videos, audio is all on there. My galleries have all the pictures. There's more pictures than I have in the books. Obviously, I have the stuff in the books when people buy them because they like to look at the pictures, but you can see that and then some directly on my website. And if anyone's interested in getting like Ghostbusters stickers or the bracelets, that you can find all that stuff on the website too.
Awesome. So if they have a story from your area, they can contact you right through there?
Oh my, yes. authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Awesome. You can go through the website if you want, but if you know that email, authoreleanorwagner.com, send me your story. It might end up in one of my books.
Awesome. All right, sure. Eleanor, well, I really appreciate you coming on the show and taking time to talk with me and my audience tonight, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
I'd like that. Thank you so much. Let's definitely do that.
All right, sounds good. You have a good night.
You too.